You're watching Good Evening San Diego.
We are into day 9 into former President Donald Trump's hush money trial. He is currently facing 34 counts of falsifying records related to payments to Stormy Daniels and another woman who is accusing Trump of having an affair. Joining us now to talk more about this is criminal defense attorney Vic Bajaj. Good to see you, Vic. How are you?
My pleasure. It's great to see you again, Logan.
I want to first talk about, because the latest information today also was that the judge found Mr. Trump in contempt for violating the gag order and fined him several $1,000, $1,000 per offense, I suppose. What do you think about that?
Right, $1,000 per offense. 9 offenses out of 10 was what the judge found to be viable, and said, boy, I wish I could do more. The interesting thing about it is the judge issued a written decision. It wasn't sort of an off-the-cuff, hey, you know, I'm going to listen to the evidence and let's see what's going on. The judge issued a written decision. But the scary thing about it is, as de minimis as these violations are, because you're not tainting the jury, you're retorting and giving a counter-argument to things that are proliferated by the prosecution's theory of the case in public. So there really isn't a harm. There's no intimidation of witnesses or potential witnesses. So one must wonder, why not allow a defendant to speak about the process generally? Of course, the judge, and no judge would want personal attacks on the judge or the judge's staff or courtroom staff. But that's not at all what we're dealing with here. A judge can make wrong rulings. A judge can be biased, and it's very difficult to imagine a world where you handicap somebody's First Amendment rights.
Let's talk about some of the testimony today. Karen McDougal's attorney came on. She's the Playboy playmate that claims that she had an affair with Trump. She, I think, received $150,000. This is part of the hush money. The National Enquirer buys the story and then doesn't run it so that nobody knows about it. Talk a little bit about what you heard today and how the case is going, you think.
As far as Davidson as a witness, it really is just a microcosmic spectrum of what happens underneath the layer of the first layer of the onion, as we talked about, Logan. And it's scary in a sense. There's a lot of truth, there's a lot of falsification, but all of it comes down to money. And so the danger here is to recognize what legal theories of prosecution are and claims, causes of action in civil cases, versus extortion, bribery, blackmail, let's say. It's not as though something has to be true to have monetary value. People will try to silence false stories as well, especially when there are publications like the National Enquirer that may run with stories that are not fleshed out completely.
So how do you think the prosecution is doing laying out the case? It's basically that these records were falsified because it was hush money, and of course they didn't say it was hush money, and that influenced the presidential election.
I would venture to guess that those jurors have their booklets and their pen, and they really have a lot of notes, but the most relevant note I would guess exists is one table and check marks next to it. Did Donald Trump know? And which witnesses bolster that theory? Because the prosecution has to prove that. That state of mind that we've talked about many times is very important for the prosecution's case. Did he know Michael Cohen was paying to silence this story? And in addition, did he know that was done to benefit his run for the presidential position?
And if the answer is yes to both of those, then he's guilty, you think?
Then all jurors would have to agree. That's a tough proposition here, Logan, because Davidson and all of the witnesses so far, including Pecker, said, well, I didn't know Trump knew it. Now, I knew Trump would be a benefactor. He would benefit by this salacious story having covers thrown over it. But boy, I didn't know whether he knew about this deal. And there are other factors that I think are relevant when we talk about the jury's deliberation. How did it happen? One would expect when Donald Trump has a lawyer who reaches a contract and an agreement, there's a check and a wire as promised. It seems to be the theory that Michael Cohen was trying to be on Donald Trump's good side and perhaps present him with an unexpected surprise of, you know what, we buried this story. That seems more likely than the alternative of Donald Trump pulling the puppet strings behind the scenes.
Okay, well, we'll continue to follow it. We'll have you on again. as it continues, it'll be interesting, especially I think when we start seeing Stormy Daniels is supposed to testify, Karen McDougal, the other woman. So, Vic, good to see you. Vic Bajaj for us.
Always my pleasure. Thank you, Logan.
Thanks, Vic. Teresa.